As you know, we're less than 100 days from the presidential election. And next week, Vice President Kamala Harris is set to hit the key swing states in the country. Except she's not going to be rolling solo anymore. Kamala Harris will be riding along with her running mate, her vice presidential choice, who is, I can't tell you yet, but I do know. I'm 99.9% sure that I know. But anyway, she's going to be interviewing people the next few days. She's going to make an official choice probably this weekend, no later than Monday, I would imagine, because they're going to hold a rally in Philadelphia on Tuesday, August the 6th, which will kick off a 4-day battleground tour. They're going to be in Pennsylvania. They're going to be Michigan. They're going to be in Arizona. They need to be in about 8 states because they need to keep the momentum that they've gained. But that said, we don't officially know again who the choice would be, but we'll likely see them Monday evening or Tuesday morning officially selected. By the way, drop your choices in the chat. Let us know who you think the nominee should be. Who do you think should be the vice presidential choice for Vice President Kamala Harris? Who would you choose? Don't just think about who you like. Think about who can help the campaign win. Because right now, the campaign has a lot of momentum. In the first week after Harris became the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, and it looks like that's already going to happen, the campaign, this is interesting, hauled in $200 million. $200 million. And look, Kamala Harris has been at various moments in her political career cold, lukewarm, popular, wildly popular, less popular, unpopular, scapegoat, Teflon. She's been all the things. Well, at this moment, she is riding high. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of love. And when she hits the campaign trail now, I saw her up there with Quavo talking about Donald Trump don't walk it like he talk it. I'm like, okay, she on one now. She's in her groove. She's feeling comfortable. She's feeling happy. Well, here she is on the campaign trail today talking about the really record success that the Harris campaign has had so far in the week and a half that she's been the presumptive nominee.
We have a fight in front of us, and we are the underdogs in this race. We are. But you see, this is a people-powered campaign. Ours is a people-powered campaign. In fact, after I announced my candidacy, we saw the best week of grassroots fundraising in presidential campaign history. And if you go to KamalaHarris.com, you can help us build on that success.
See, that's where I have a few thoughts on that, and I'll share them with you. First, that little addendum, and if you go to KamalaHarris.com, you can build on that success. Look, you got to sell stuff. Look, I stay selling stuff. I stay telling y'all, not selling stuff. I stay telling y'all to join and be members and donate. It's not that. But she had a moment there. She had a moment that for the more charismatic speakers, the more gifted politicians, they would have sealed up perfectly. They would have said, we're a people power campaign. We've broken the records. Thank you. And kept it pushing. You can get back to KamalaHarris.com. But when you punctuate the sentence with that, and I'm not nitpicking. She didn't do anything wrong. But I'm just saying that there's a way that kind of undermined, that's right, the hustle fund. It undermined the kind of power of that soundbite. And it shows the kind of difference between her and, say, Barack Obama, or her and, say, Bill Clinton. It's much more John. She made a John Kerry move there. And so, again, it's a very small thing. Nobody cares. The more important thing is that she has hauled in $200 million in a week. 66% of that $200 million. 66% of that. It's like 100. What is that? Do math real quick. 10, 6, 120, some shit. It's like 130, whatever, right? Y'all get like 150 million. Is from first time contributors. That means that of the $200 million, and again, that's a record. As she pointed out, that is a record. That is a lot of money for any politician to haul in. 132 million of the 200 million comes from people who didn't give a nickel to Joe Biden. They're first time contributors. And the moment Joe Biden stepped up and said, I'm choosing Kamala, $132 million came from people who had no intent, or I don't say, I can't speak to the data that way. They had no history in this election cycle of spending money. So you got 200 million and you got 132 of that from people who just were like, look, we didn't rock with Biden, but we rock with you. You got cash coming in. You got people showing up. You ever heard Donald Trump brag about how he gets all the crowds and Kamala doesn't, like he said about Biden, like he said about Biden the first time, like he said about his Republican counterparts. He knows Kamala's filling up these stadiums. You got Meg Thee Stallion in the building. You got Beyonce doing the soundtrack to you, or her music playing behind your campaign ad. And these artists don't just co-sign everything. She's got pop culture behind her. She's got, Trump has, Lil Pump and Amber Rose. She's got Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Meg Thee Stallion. It's a different. They're not like us. She could very easily say, but she's also getting endorsements from very interesting parties. Kamala Harris is getting endorsements from Republicans. She's getting endorsements from labor groups. Joe Biden did well with labor groups, but they can be very progressive and find Biden and Harris insufficiently progressive. And speaking of progressive, leading groups like the Working Families Party. The Working Families, but this is a party that is sort of one of the more progressive, if not radical, voices in mainstream politics. They probably would even say they're not mainstream politics fully because they're so progressive and radical, because they have such a broad and ambitious vision of what our society could be. I love the Working Families Party. Shout out to them. Well, they have endorsed Kamala Harris. I can't wait to talk to Maurice Mo Mitchell, who is the national director for the party. He'll be on later in the week, and we'll ask him why the party made that choice. It's a curious choice, but it suggests that Kamala Harris has a coalition. She's got support. She's got people. And somebody said she's getting the kitty cat lady coin. Yo, y'all might be joking about that. But when J.D. Vance steps up and says childless cat ladies are ruining the country, there's a lot of women out there who were rightly offended and who said enough with the sexism. Let's stand with this woman. Not because she's a woman, but because she has a vision. But I might give you this money because you're a woman. I might give you this money because J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are so disgustingly sexist and patriarchal. But at the core, we believe in this campaign. I don't know if J.D. Vance is going to make it to the finish line with Donald Trump. If he keep talking crazy and undermining votes and waking up the giant and galvanizing the political opponent, I don't know if J.D. Vance is going to make it. He doesn't seem to have done much for the ticket. And if it looks like they're polling low in Ohio, which is the gift that he's supposed to bring as a junior senator from Ohio, if they ain't winning Ohio with J.D. Vance, he might have to go. Don't be surprised if that is the case. But again, Kamala Harris is going to be barnstorming through the country. At some moment, there will be some question about what her progressive and radical bona fides are. And that might be when that balloon gets popped. Right now, she said, as you heard in her remarks, that we are a people-powered campaign. That implies that they're grassroots. Grassroots or people power is not how I would describe the Kamala Harris campaign, the Obama campaign, the Biden campaign, the Bush campaign, the Trump campaign. Democratic and Republican parties are corporate parties. They are organized and strengthened and galvanized by corporate money. They do not operate from people power. It doesn't mean that people don't donate. Obama got a lot of individual donations and inspired a lot of people to write them little checks and them big checks and them medium checks. But at the end of the day, let's not pretend that this is not corporate party politics. Let's never forget that it is corporate party politics. Let's never forget that whatever Kamala and her VP choice do, whether it's Whitmer, whether it's Kelly, whether it's Shapiro, whoever it is, please understand that all of them are beholden to the same powerful corporate interests. All of them make their decisions based on what the powerful say. And yeah, they might respond to the voice of the people, but they're driven and directed by the powerful, not by the people. Let's just be very, very clear about that. All right. We have a very, very, very interesting opportunity right now. We have a chance to see Donald Trump stopped. I don't think there's a person on the left who doesn't agree that Donald Trump is a monster, that Donald Trump represents the worst outcome for us in this election cycle. I mean, there might be someone on the left who disagrees with that. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but most get that. That's not what needs to be explained. For a lot of us, we get that. The question is, when you go barnstorming through these swing states, what is your vision for us? And for those of us on the left, for those of us who are Black, for those of us who are brown, for those of us who are, name it, right? How does widening the tent alienate the vulnerable? In other words, Kamala Harris got a lot of people back on board. And some of y'all weren't really socialists. Some of y'all weren't really communists. Some of y'all weren't really radicals. Because if you were that radical, you shouldn't be sold on Kamala this fast. You might be sold on stopping Trump, but you shouldn't be endorsing Kamala just yet, unless you're just saying, look, I don't blue no matter who or anybody that'll win. But when Kamala expands the net, does she do that by not talking about reparations? Does she do that by not talking about stopping corporate greed? Does she do that by normalizing or sanitizing American imperialism? Does she remain silent on Palestine? What do you do in this context? That's the question you have to ask. That's the question you have to ask. So this is a moment of exaltation. This is a moment of excitement. This is a moment of, oh, we're winning. We got this. First, you got to ask yourself, who's we? And what does winning look like? Again, I get the urgency of Trump. I'm not saying don't do everything you can to stop Trump, but it doesn't mean that politicians have no accountability. You can't walk into the room and not ask a question to Kamala Harris. You can't just let her do whatever, because if there's no pressure applied, if there's no leverage pursued, then you know what you end up with? You end up with 4 years that undoubtedly are better than what Trump would give you, but you foreclose on the possibilities that would have inevitably emerged if Kamala Harris knew that she had to be beholden to us for our votes. That's what Michigan was trying to do with that uncommitted movement. That's what Pennsylvania, it might be starting with the uncommitted movement, and other states, swing states, uncommitted. Y'all, we need this.